Hey guys, welcome back to PRs and Purpose. If you've been around here for a while, you know this podcast isn't just about what happens inside the gym. It's about what shapes us outside of it too. Today's episode's a little bit different, and something that we're kind of excited about. Ricky and I are going to be discussing some of our favorite reads from this past year in 2025. Books that challenged the way we think, strengthened our faith, and helped us be better inside and outside the gym, but also helped us better understand our habits, our health, and ourselves, really. These aren't the kind of read this and you'll fix your life overnight type of books. They're kind of the books that quietly shift your mindset. They give you language for things that you felt but couldn't really explain. And they've helped, like I just said, us show up better in our workouts, in our relationships, and our everyday life. And because we're big on community, uh, we want to make these books available at the gym. So we'll be bringing them in sometime this week or weekend. That way you guys can start kind of looking through them if you're interested. So whether you're a seasoned reader or someone who hasn't picked up a book in years, that's fine. This episode is for you. So let's go ahead and get into it. I think when it comes to books, you and I are different in a lot of ways
100%.
in that. But I think because sometimes it gets kind of lumped into this self-help category that leaves people feeling either overwhelmed or like it's cheesy, like reading is cheesy, you know? But I think because they assume reading is always tied to, well, if I read some or if I need to read something, it's because I'm dumb or because I don't know something, right? Um, and
Oh,
yes,
that's
in
an in
some of those
interesting take
instances,
for
like
sure.
it's true. Like, yes, we read to expand our knowledge. Um, but for me, I read for many different reasons. My genres and books that I read are also vastly different, and a wide range, just like my music. Um, and like I just said, I think you and I are different in those. Like I'm a person who loves to read. I enjoy reading. I read books that expand my knowledge. I read books that are just there for creativity and fantasy. Um, and I read books to further, my profession, whether it's CrossFit or nutrition or things like that, just to kind of again continue to grow and to learn. Um, and I love books. I love bookstores. I love going into
Yeah.
Books A Million and with no book in mind that I wanna buy, like, I just let the store tell me what I want.
Oh my goodness.
And I can
Can't do
literally
it.
spend hours in there just browsing all of the books. I love the smells, I love all of that. Whereas you are very different, not only in the sense of, like, that's not what you enjoy, but you also are more of, like, an audiobook. Like, you like to hear it, you like to listen to it rather than, like, read it. Like, I need mine in front of my face. And I'm also very particular in, like, I want the actual book. Like, you got me a Kindle, I don't know how long ago, like, when Kindles first came out. And I maybe used it for that first, like, year, and then it's stowed away somewhere. I mean, it's traveled with us too. I've always kept it, but I don't use it. I prefer the actual like hard copy books where
Yeah.
I can turn the page and yeah, I like that. But
Yeah, I definitely have a different perspective on reading. I typically read with an agenda. Like, I need to go learn something and I'm ready to process it in that way through a book. Audiobooks, I like them just because I can make use of my time. I very task oriented, not time oriented. So if I can get as many tasks done in the day as possible, I'm going to try to do it. So when I'm driving back and forth to the 15-minute commute to the gym or to wherever we're going, I'm like, if I can take this 10 to 15 minutes and get and digest something and it's audio, go for it. It keeps me off my phone when I'm driving as far as text
right.
messaging and things like that. So I'm like, okay, this will act in two fronts. But if I go into a read, it's because there's something that I'm lacking knowledge on and I don't feel comfortable either talking about it very often or I don't see someone that I can like turn to as for a mentor in that subject right away. And sometimes, like, I do have those people in life that, like, they act as mentors, but I need answers like on my own time, just like everyone else. And I don't want to bother people with too much. So I typically go for a read or like, hey, how does this work? And I'll go find out how it works. Even though there might be someone where there's an easy button, I don't hit that easy button very often. I don't call upon ask very much because I feel like sometimes when I do that, I I want to make sure that I'm taking them into consideration, like their time and everything into consideration. Um, Sorry, the things flipped on me. It like flashed over
No,
there in the
yeah, no,
corner, and I was like, "Wait a
yeah.
minute, is there a picture being taken right
Didn't
now?"
miss that. No.
Yeah. Um, so that's kind of me. I read for a purpose, and then I go use that knowledge for whatever I'm working on. Most people will be like, "Oh, he doesn't like to read." Like, I can read with a book in front of me, as long as I feel like I'm gonna get something from the book. I don't read fantasy books and things like that that I don't feel like I'll ever even need. I'm a person of like, I want the information, I want to process it, I want to apply it to my everyday life right then and there. Um, so that's kind of my take on reading. I do like the hardback copies on certain types of reads, but others I'm okay with audio if that's what gets me that option to read for the day or that dose of knowledge to kind of like reshape my mind. I mean, I've been reading the the Bible in 365 days, so it's like a little devotional every day, and it just keeps me accountable having something hard to go, whether I'm inside of a store or I stop to get wherever I'm at, coffee or something, and I'm like pulling it out and reading just to make sure I get it. So I do like that accountability piece, like with something in your hand, you're doing this thing and you're not, just scrolling on your phone or something like that. It gets me away from things. So I do like that part of it. But I do go into every read wanting to learn something. And even with the Bible in 365 days thing that I'm reading right now, it's like I'm learning. I'm still relatively new in my faith journey. Believe in God and all that good stuff, and try to be, a follower of God in all things I do. Especially as I get older, I start to realize like how off track I was, and being able to do that consistently is like just helping me like reframe my day. So I definitely think that I'm using that in the same way I use all kinds of reads is like I'm learning, but I'm also learning a lot about myself and like my views on things. And I'm learning like scripture and where it applies to everyday life. And then I also read the Daily Dad, which is like a daily stoic for dads just to kind of, you know, recage my mind for the day. So I got the scripture for myself, in God. And then I also got the Daily Dad to make sure that I'm squared away and I go into the day with the right mindset. And then from there, all other readings are just what am I working on? Where's my roadblocks at? And who has the answers to it? There's a book out there somewhere, and I'll get it.
Yeah, there is a
That's
book
it.
out there somewhere,
Yeah,
which
and
is
that's it.
so amazing.
Yeah,
I definitely I mean, I believe and I know you believe too, but our mindset, how we talk to ourselves, our self-talk, our faith, our understanding of nutrition and fitness, it all matters to us. So
absolutely.
I think if we were to put like a genre on, what we typically read, um, most of it is from that growth mindset of like, what don't we know that we want to know more of? How do we want to grow not only as business owners, as leaders in that business, as parents, as spouses, as brothers and sisters, and then as friends. Like there's room for growth in all capacities of everything that we do. And I just always want to be better. I want to be able to offer my best self in all of those capacities. And a lot of that for me that, from what I've realized over the past few years that I've really kind of dug deep is that all stems from my relationship with God first. Looking back on like the times that I kind of steered away or that I had the biggest challenges are the times that I tried to overcome those by myself. And I was a little bit kind of disconnected. I was a lot of it disconnected in some of those seasons. And it always kind of brought me back to my faith and being rooted, which one of these books was a big part of that last year. Um, I know you talked about you start your day off with, your daily devotionals in your Bible, and then also, as being a dad too. Um, I think that habit in itself is very important. It's one that I haven't really solidified and established. It's something that I want to do. I just talked to you yesterday about like I need a morning routine.
And
Like
I was like, I need a bedtime
I
routine.
I need a morning routine. And for a while I had one, but it obviously didn't stick because it wasn't something that really brought me joy. Like it was like, all right, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. every morning. I'm going to start my day. And it was very vague. Like, okay, but why do I want to do that? What's going to make me feel like I'm productive or I'm doing the thing and it brings me joy. Like I didn't have those details ironed out. I was just like, I'm going to get up early. I'm going to get my day started and here we go. And then I was like, well, what do I like? The 5 o'clock came and I was like, snooze. Like, why am I getting up? What am I going to do? How's that going to make me feel? What am I really? So I didn't have that goal, which is a huge thing that we talk about when we talk about establishing habits and wanting to change routines and your lifestyle. It's like you have to have that why. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, why not? I'm just going to hit snooze. Like, why did I tell myself I was going to get up at 5 a.m.? What am I doing?
Yeah.
But it is something that I really, I want to do. I just have to find, or just kind of not really find because I know why I want to do it. But it's like, I have to tie that into now the finer details of what that looks like for me. Because it is something, you can want something as much as you want, but that doesn't necessarily mean that one, you're ready to make that change, or two, you really have a plan. And that plan needs to be as detailed as you can get it. Otherwise, those little moments start to slip in and it's like, yeah, well, I'm going to ditch it here. I'm going to ditch it here. They all come up. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. And, after we had that conversation yesterday where I was like, I need a morning routine. I was like, all right, Kim, what does that look like? And why does it need to look a certain way? Like, what am I trying to achieve? Um, but kind of getting back to the books, I didn't count them, but it's probably around
Stacked by the door.
20. Yeah, there's
It's
a
stacked
stack by the door. I can't see it right now. But there's probably about 20 books in there. I picked the 3 that stood out to me the most. Um, and most of these books that we're going to bring into the gym, like I said, I like to read all types of genres and I like to read for fun. The ones that we're bringing into the gym aren't the nonfiction fun reads. I like those too. So if you have questions on which ones are my favorite there, I'd be happy to share. But the ones that we're bringing into the gym are ones that we feel people can benefit from, because it's things that we've experienced ourselves. It's books that's changed our mindset, our lives, our relationships. And it's not anything that is uncommon. It's things that, we feel are very common that they just maybe don't get talked about out loud, because there's a vulnerability level that has to be there in order for you to be like not giving the superficial like, hey, how's everything going? They're like, good, and it's like, not really good. I'm just going to say good so I don't have to tell you all the rest. Once you get past that, like everyone's dealing with something at some point. And for me, taking time out of my day, whether it be, at the beginning of my day, at the end of my day, in the middle of the day, or for you during your commutes, to take that time to just like allow our brains to just pause on the busyness of life, to grow and to reflect, and to all of that, I think is super important. So that's what these books are that we're bringing in. If you guys have questions on ones that are there in the gym, and not ones that we've talked about specifically today, again, we love conversations like that. We love questions. So feel free to, ask us if you have any questions about any of those books in there. But the first one that I do want to talk about is a book called Soundtracks by John Acuff. This one was brought to my attention when I first started working with HSN. And Nicole Coyne actually has this as part of her program because it's a very important topic when we start to discuss habit change and overthinking, and how those things can kind of run and ruin in some capacities our lives and our goals, and things that we're wanting for ourselves. The whole idea of the book is that we all have these soundtracks playing in our head, which are those repetitive thoughts that we don't even realize are shaping our decisions on a daily basis. So one of the parts of the book that I wanted to kind of read on is him discussing broken soundtracks. So he says, broken soundtracks are narrative stories you tell yourself about yourself and your world. They play automatically without any invitation or effort from you. Fear does not take work. Doubt does not take work. Insecurity does not take work. So all of these things that flood our brains from whatever past experiences that they're coming from, um, they're automatic, and we don't even realize that they're happening because we're so caught up in the busyness of our day. Um, and I think understanding that these soundtracks um, should be treated as dials and not an on and off switch was something that he even said when he heard that for the first time, he was like, oh my gosh, you're right. It's a dial. It's not a switch. So then he talks about it a lot in the book. Um, and it's something that I've mentioned to clients before because I heard it in this book and I wanted that to resonate with someone as well. Um, but he goes on and he kind of talks about it's like it's not a switch. He said it's a dial. The goal isn't to turn it off forever. The goal is to turn down the volume. It's going to get louder sometimes. That's how dials work. But when life turns up the negative thoughts, we get to turn them back down. That takes a lot of pressure off because when you hear one again, it's not a sign that you failed to shut it off and need to go find a different switch. It's just time for an action that will turn it back down. Um, and when he said that, I was like, well, yeah, because a lot of times, in my cases, it's like if I'm hearing the soundtrack or if I'm hearing the story about, whatever it might be that's, producing negative thoughts or negative feelings in my life, it's kind of like a fail if I feel like, okay, I quieted it down. I am, I'm not going to let that determine like who I am as a person or who I am as a mom or as a leader, and I feel like I overcame it. And then weeks or months or, whatever down the road, it pops back up. I'm like, oh, no, I thought I conquered that fear. I thought I conquered that thought and it comes back up. And to me, I'm like, well, whatever I did to kind of conquer that, it didn't work. So fail, right? And again, it's like if we stop thinking about it as a switch, it's like, hey, it's like a dial. At any point, yeah, something's going to happen, some stress or something's going to happen, and that's going to get turned back up, and that's going to be loud in our head. My goal is to find something to then turn it back, turn the volume back down. So that was something that was very kind of helped me connect. The thing that I love about books and books that really resonate with me are ones that they bring their thought into something that I can tie into reality. Like as soon as like I can tie like a soundtrack, when I'm reading about soundtracks and I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds cool and great and very scientific, and they can get into all of that. But as soon as he said the dial and the switch kind of thing, like I pictured a dial and a switch and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. And in this book and in the next book that I'm going to talk about, like these are all things that happen in the book. And those are things that stick with me. I know you mentioned that you're really great at multitasking and like you can listen to an audiobook and like be on the road. Like I cannot listen and like drive at the same time. So like I'm either focused on driving so I don't run any red lights or crash into anybody, but then I'm not like listening because I'm like, shoot, so I have to like rewind a lot. Like, so I'm not an audio person because I have to like close my eyes and like sit there and kind of like meditate to be able to absorb and listen. Otherwise, I'm much easily distracted.
No, that makes
Um,
sense.
so whenever books can do that for me, when I'm like reading and I'm like, I have nothing really to tie it back into or to like put a visual to, I'm like, okay, that's cool. But then like as soon as I'm done with the book, it kind of just like goes off. But this one kind of really helps tie into that. He also, um, throughout the book, gives practical applications for you to like to practice to try to get a hold of these soundtracks and change them. Essentially, is what we're trying to do to more positive thinking. That way, we don't allow those negative thoughts to kind of run our minds. Um, so I love that part of it. There's what am I trying to say? Practices, I guess, that he gives you to do, to identify what your soundtracks are, where they're coming from, how often and why they pop up, and then how practical applications on how we can then address it and change it. So very, very great book there. I know one, I kind of want to bounce back and forth. One that you read and you even on some of these podcasts have talked about is Atomic
Habits.
Habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kicked off Atomic Habits was some of our mentors kind of recommended it, but before then, I started reading about habits and the understanding behaviors and stuff like that when I was on deployment, and it was called Power of Habit. And my brother Trey thought it would be a good book for me to start with when it tries to pinpoint some of the things going on in my head at that time in my life and stuff. So I started. It was by Charles Duhigg. It's called The Power of Habit. Basically, breaks down the science on habit formation, how it works, and the loop that happens inside of it. And it starts with a cue, then a routine, and then a reward. Like the cue triggers the routine produces a reward. You're like, ah,
And then you want to
yeah,
repeat
yeah,
it.
yeah, repeat
Yeah.
it. And it went into the formation of a habit, and it jumped in and it started using analogies in similar situations where like Target and like marketing campaigns and stuff like that around the world was like capitalizing on this cue, routine, reward,
Yeah.
like formation in their marketing. And you start to see things and they start to break down. And like so far as that when they Target developed the, rewards program and it started to track people's time of the month that they bought certain things. And then it was into like people in the, second trimester, third trimester, ladies and stuff like that. And they would start to pick up on if this person was pregnant based on what they're buying, when they're buying it. And then once they start to see these habits form, because we're creatures of habit, like when ladies get pregnant, there's going to be certain things they go through in the first trimester, second trimester, third trimester. They started to break this cycle or start to understand the cycle more to where their marketing campaigns are different. Like they can start triggering people and sending out ads to those people's locations based on their reward system that they signed up for. So they have their address, they have their email, they have all this stuff. And they start tracking purchases and they know when you're running out and when you should run out of this. And they start to track those things so much so that they can send you an ad and your next door neighbor receive a different ad. So targeting ads. So your $5 off of laundry detergent, I won't see because it's not my turn to get
So
it
you're
yet.
getting $5 off diapers
Exactly,
because you're a
100%.
new parent.
And it was just crazy to think about like how and then when the person walks in, they try all these different advertisements in the front of the store. It's like, what are people looking for?
Dollars.
What are they, what are they looking for when they come in? There's a cue, right? Does it trigger a routine, right? Sometimes those routines are conscious and sometimes they're unconscious because depending on how many times you've done that, sometimes it's subconscious. Like you don't even know.
Yeah.
Like you don't even know this routine's sticking in, but you get the reward and you just keep doing it. So that was a very interesting book for me to understand that some of my behaviors were learned and then like learned behaviors based on just like cues and how it was triggering a certain behavior, like a routine and the reward I would get from it. So I would chase that. Then that developed into understanding atomic habits. Like how do I habit stack pretty much? That's kind of like one of the books a mentor said, like, hey, run with this one next. Like if you're good at like prioritizing your day, you're a task oriented person, there's some routines in there or there's some habits in there where you can take a new habit you're trying to form and stack it on top of it. So that kind of got me interested in the James Clear book. Um, and like his whole philosophy behind his book is just like trying to get you to understand that like habits are compound interests on self improvement. Like the better your systems are, like the better your life will be. You can have whatever goal you want in life. Those are cool to set goals and settings, but like you only rise to or like you fell to your like systems and processes and like having something to put in stone that you already do, whether it's conscious or unconscious, or like subconsciously like happening. You got to start stacking new habits around there. So there's triggers, there's a cue, there's a routine. And then once you get that reward, you start to build that habit. So that's huge for me because like, even when you talked about the daily devotional, we talked about having a morning routine. It's like, what do I like to do in the mornings? I like to work out first. Like I like to do some things. I say not every day I do that because I have to coach. It's like, well, I know I brush my teeth every morning, but I'm not going to sit down and do something right before I brush your teeth. And it's like, well, I do like coffee. Recently, gotten into coffee way more did before. Then I started realizing that I was going broke because I basically funded the Black Rifle location here in Clarksville single-handedly. And I was like, I need to tie
That is
something to
false.
this. Yeah, no, it's pretty close. So then I started tying into like, well, if I'm going to stop and get coffee, then I'm going to read. So you need to have your Bible on you if you're going to go get coffee, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it's like, all right. So now, yes, I still get coffee. Not all the time I get like all the coffee, whatever. Like I get decaf and all this stuff depending on the day. But like that's what helped me start that is like learning about the habit, stacking it on top of the atomic habits and like where do I place habits? How do I get better? How do I build better systems? And then that led into my daily devotional, my daily dad stuff. Like I want to be a better follower of Jesus Christ, and I want to be a better father, period, like to my kids. And then I also want to be a better husband too, right? And I think if I stack those two things together first, like to something that I already do, it allows me to start being like, no, I am a follower of Jesus Christ. I do read scripture. You know, it's not like I would like to do those things. It's like, no, I do these things now. But it took me finding something I enjoyed that really wasn't super beneficial to my to my like health or wealth like or anything like that. It was just like I do this consistently, which is I stop at Black Rifle because it's right across the street from our house when we pull out and it's consistent. It's like, what can I tie to this? How can I make this a self-improvement stop for the day?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did. So that's where I'm at with that book. So that's why I'm still in the process of James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. And I go back and forth to it. It's not like a cover to cover read for me. It's like that chapter was super awesome. I'm gonna revisit it
Yeah.
for like a week, you know, because it's
Yeah.
like I can't just read something from cover to cover sometimes and just go execute. Some of this stuff takes time and processes, like, you know, time and trial and error and like where you're gonna fit it in your day and like how much time do you spend on doing that. So with a gen I've been stuck on that at the third like the fourth chapter right now for like a long time.
Yeah.
And just because I'm like, how do I apply this? I'm not quite executing it the way I want before I can be like, okay, I'm ready for the next thing, you know?
Yeah, and
Um,
I think a lot of books are I think soundtracks is that way too. I didn't finish that. Like that wasn't a front to back read for me. Like I wasn't just trying to read it for the sake of reading it. Like because it has practical applications in there. There were times where like I didn't move on from reading anything because I was applying what he just taught me. And some that took 2 weeks,
yeah,
sometimes that took 4 weeks. Like there was like a couple months span in between where I was like, okay, I feel like I've got a handle on this now. What does he suggest next? Right. So then I would continue reading. And it's not like it's like a checklist of like, do this, right? Throughout the read, he's just making these suggestions on how to overcome this. And if it resonates with you, like some of these chapters did, I was like, I need to pause here because this is the place where I need most work on. So I did, and I took that pause. And then whenever I felt like I had, that under control, I then, continued to read. And there were chapters in there that I was like, this doesn't really apply, but it's very interesting. And then I'd get to another part where I'm like, I need to pause because I need to go fix this or apply this or figure out how to change my way of thinking around this part. And I think Atomic Habits is the same thing. I think taking books like that, um, where it's like it's challenging you to take a mindset shift or it's challenging you to grow in your knowledge of nutrition or your knowledge of your faith, things like that. It's like those aren't things that like you're just going to read a book and it's going to be like, got it, that's all I
yeah,
needed. Like it's a long journey. It's a long journey. These books just helped us understand it better. um and for me, see that visual part of what they're saying um, in my actual life. So, like this next one that I read is called "The Well-Watered Woman" by Gretchen Saffels. This one leans more into kind of faith and identity. And I think it's especially powerful for women like me who tend to pour into everyone else and tend to run on empty or find themselves running on empty quite often. It's This book is broken down into three parts. And she characterizes the well-watered woman by the well, the word, and the way. The well is the starting point where the gospel is planted in your life and your roots take hold of the truth. Then she goes into the next section, which is the word. According to her, that represents growth in Christ. The well-watered woman is always growing, changing, and being transformed into Jesus's likeness. And then the last section is the way, and it represents blooming and flourishing in Christ. And we'll look at in the book how obedience and love for Jesus affects the way we think, act, and go about our daily life. So that's kind of the structure of the book, and it resonated with me because it changed kind of brought to light the idea of being rooted instead of rushed. Um, and there was a section in here. Did I mark it? Let me see here. Yeah, so I tried to erase some of these books. I had to buy new ones because I like to write in my books. And I have like notes on the side and stuff. So some of them I had to like buy new ones to put in the gym. So you didn't see all of my thoughts and stuff in it. So I was making sure that I erased a lot of what I couldn't hear. But this one, she writes, after a seed is buried beneath the earth's surface, its first priority is to develop roots in the soil. Roots are the heartbeat of the plant. They absorb nutrients in the soil, take in water, and stabilize the plant. Without roots, plants can't grow, flourish, or produce fruit. Without their invisible work beneath the surface, there would be no life above. The strongest trees and toughest plants are the ones with the deepest roots, and often the ones that have faced the most storms. So for me, that, in reading this book, 2025 brought, I wouldn't say a lot, but it brought frequent moments of burnout for me. In I would say most capacity in the business realm. I got burnt out in the business a lot in 2025. But God's strength is made perfect in my weakness. And during this time, I began to read this book. I bought this book back in 2024, I think. And like, I go to Books A Million and I just buy a bunch of books, like with no intention on when I'm going to read them or if I'm ever going to, like, I just love buying books.
Which I can't.
So
Can't do that.
this was one that I heard from, I went to a women's event at Life Point at church. It was called Flourish. And I want to say the speaker there had mentioned about the book. I had heard it from somewhere, obviously. So whenever I was at Books A Million, I saw it and I was like, oh, I've heard of that book. It sounded interesting. I'm going to buy it. So I added it to the stack, but I didn't read it in 2024. And in 2025, when I was going through, a tough time, I was going through my little library in our room and I pulled this one out. And I began to read it and it opened my eyes to understanding that my burnout isn't always about doing too much. It was truly about just being disconnected with my family, being disconnected with you, being disconnected with God, first and foremost. And as I was reading that, I was just kind of, because to me, I was like, okay, well, what do I need to remove from my schedule? What do I need to remove from my duties? And it was all of these things of like, I'm too busy, I'm doing too much, I need to do less. And this book was like, you're doing fine. You can manage those things. Like, it's not a management thing. Like, you can multitask. You can, again, those soundtracks that were like, you can't handle this. You're doing too much. You can't be a mom and a businesswoman. You can't, all of these things. Like, you're not going to be great at all of them. So just be okay with being okay in each one. And I was like, all right, I guess that's just, no one can do it all.
That's an easy story to listen to.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So then in reading this, I felt like he was telling me, like, you're not doing too much. You're just not connected with anything.
Yeah.
So,
You're good. Take a minute.
so yeah.
You're good, babe. Take a minute.
So this book helped with that. And I felt like it came at a really important moment because, like I said, I bought this book 2 years ago and I didn't know when I was going to read it, or really what the book entailed. It was just a title that was mentioned. And the title just stuck with me to the point where, like, I was browsing through the normal sections of Books A Million that I always go to. I always have my sections that I do that. And And as you know, like when you're in Books a Million, the only part of the books that you see are the side pieces here. So like usually when I'm looking through Books a Million, I'm like walking with like my head turned to the side because I'm reading all of the titles. And I literally, that's how I pick my books. I stop in one that like stands out and I'm like, that sounds good. Like I don't read what the first page, I don't read the, like rarely I read, sometimes I'll read the back, like especially with nonfiction books. I'll read the back and be like, all right, what's the gist of this story that they've written? Because there's some that I'm like, I'm not going to read that. But the title sounded interesting. But like this one was back in the other section with the what is it? I forget what the section's called, but it's like where all the Bibles are, women devotionals, like all of those things. It was back in that section. Um, and I was just, skimming up and down with my head cocked over to the side, and I was reading the titles, and I saw this one, and it was Well-Watered Woman, and I was like, that one sounds familiar. Like, I want to take that one. So I grabbed it, I put it in my pile, and I bought it. And then, yes, something, God told me in 2025, like, I see you, I know where you're at, open the book. So that one was really, really great. And at the end, it kind of taught me that I can rest without quitting or giving up. Like rest does not mean that I'm quitting on anything or that I'm giving up on anything. Like my body and my mind and my heart and all of that need rest, but I can do that by further connecting with God and with my husband and with my kids. And that doesn't mean I'm quitting or I'm less than in other areas because I'm choosing to be connected. Like that's where my strength's going to come from. That's where I'm going to learn to grow and again become the best mom, spouse, brother, sister, friend. Well, not brother, I'm not a male, but sister, friend, all of those things. And I realized that, like, yes, I was feeling that way, and I had gotten to that point because I had disconnected myself so much from my relationship with Him, with God, that I wasn't reading my Bible. I wasn't listening to worship music on the way to work like I used to. I wasn't, all of the things that kept me connected to Him throughout my day. Like I just have random conversations with Him on my drive. If a song sparks something, or anything like that, I just start talking out loud. And it's something that I learned from my mom and I learned from my grandma. Growing up, it was just like, who are they talking to and what are they, and they would just like, yeah, they'd have a moment in their day where they would just thank God for something, or they would ask God for something, or they would just, worship and rejoice and just be proud and or grateful of the things that He's given him or that He's given them. Um, and it was just something that like I just picked up on, and it was, that's my relationship with Him. But I realized like I was in that place and in that moment so frequently in 2025 because I was like, I just got so disconnected from Him. Like I still went to church. I still did the things. I still felt like I was a good Christian woman, but like I didn't have a very strong relationship. So this book brought me back to that. And now I'm more in tune with when I'm starting to feel those things and I'm starting to feel the challenges. I'm like, I can't do this by myself. Like I'm disconnecting a little bit
Absolutely.
more.
Yeah.
Um,
You're not supposed to do it by yourself.
no, no,
That's
you're
that's
not.
like a common thing when everyone wants to be independent these days and be looked at as a strong, independent person that doesn't need anyone's help and has got to the top like by themselves, like envy, pride. God detests pride,
Yeah.
just like having pride in your in your systems and in your ways can separate you from Him. And me saying that is so crazy, like thinking about like your scenario and just how you described it. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, that's why I have that daily devotional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm glad that I have established, and I'm still early in the routine and the habit. So there's days that I miss too, but I make up for it. I'm like, I got to read tonight. Like I missed it this morning for whatever reason. I'm like, why did I miss it? And I start
Mhm.
to like be my own critic. And I'm starting to practice prayer, which I've never really done since I lost my mom back in 2007. I had a lot of troubles with faith at that time in my life. Just like misunderstanding on like why this event has happened. Like,
Mhm.
why did I lose my mom? Like, how? looking at her life and like through the lens of like her son, can do no wrong kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, why did this happen? Like, how is this possible? Like, what did we miss? What did we, Anyway, so I went through some turbulence there with my faith and just like questioning everything and, not really giving anyone the benefit of the doubt when it comes to that. So now fast forwarding to now and looking at like how I start to establish prayer, like it feels awkward to me sometimes that like I'm just talking like
Hmm.
randomly, like by myself or like on my way, like I turn everything off in the vehicle. And it's just like I wouldn't say that this is where I would be a couple of years ago, not even last year. That this is where I would be at like at a stoplight praying. Like I just never saw myself doing that, and
Yeah.
it's just weird that like when you start to reconnect things to things that like you're open to, and it's like it comes natural. It's like, yeah, I should be praying right now. It's like, well, what am I going to pray about? It's like, you don't pray about anything. You just need to talk.
Yeah.
It's so wild. Because like I'll stop by on my morning read, just like this morning, stop by and read, and like I flip my computer open. I'm like, what am I doing? Closed it. I was
Yeah.
like, read first. But as I come in, I pass a group of men leaving, all with Bibles, and I
Yeah.
just like look by and I'm like, when I walk in, there's two more people. And then I ran into Josh Clark again today. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, there's people doing it, and it's like, that's cool to be. And I'm not saying that we're a part of something, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's cool to see other people do that thing. And just hearing you like not being connected, just being connected to him and his word and his ways, it resonates with like everything you do throughout life. So I know that I talk about, my daily devotional and then being a good dad. I think like with my daily devotional, like it also helps me be a husband. I'm supposed to be faith, you and the kids, you know what I mean? But through him, I'm getting both my faith and like where I need to stand with you and how I hold true um, in our marriage and stuff like that. So I'm getting like a 2-for-1 there. Uh, and then I turn immediately to my kids and get my daily dad dose, just to make sure my mindset's right. So, um, it allows me to have like more grace for everything that goes on throughout the day. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just insane.
And I
Cool.
just think it's easy to get caught up in, like, I can see now how I allowed that to start to, pull me away from the things that I found to be important. Like, yes, my business is important. And for the longest time, I justified it by like, well, our business is a good thing. Like, it's not like I disconnected myself from God because I'm doing bad things. Like that never popped in my mind because I was like, well, yes, the business is making me super busy, but it's because we're changing people's lives. Like, people who are walking through the doors, they're becoming better versions of themselves through their hard work and through their decisions and things like that. And I'm like, so that's a good thing. It's a good thing that I'm busy. It's a good thing that I'm,
Yeah.
distracted. It's
Making
a
an
good
impact.
thing. Yeah, I'm making an impact. I'm doing a good thing, God. Like, you
Serving.
see what I'm
Yeah.
doing? Yeah, I'm serving people, all of these things. And one of the big things that she wrote in the book was, because she ties this back to like her life and people in her life that she shares their stories as well. But she says, as the burdens, pressures, and realities of life built up, I grew tired and weary. I served Jesus beyond my capacity, saying yes to many good things while missing out on the best thing, intimacy with Him. And along the way, I lost my joy. She said, it's possible to be busy doing good things for Jesus without actually being with Him. And I was just like, that's what I'm doing. Like, yes, I'm doing good things. Yes, I'm being a good mom. I'm being a good spouse. Like, I wasn't being terrible at any of those things. I wasn't, out doing, bad things, or my business wasn't, ill or anything like that. Like, that's why I was like, well, this is great. Like, we're growing, we're expanding, we're doing all of these things. All of these things are happening. Um, and he was just saying like, hey, like, yeah, I see that you're busy and you're handling it and it's great, but you're slowly getting more and more disconnected.
Mm.
And the more and more disconnected I got, that's when I felt the burdens, and that's when I felt the challenges, and that's when I felt all of these things that are good that he's bringing to us. Like, our business is growing. That's a good thing. But without him, it's not, because it gets hectic, it gets challenging. We get in, in conversations that are heated, and it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like,
Yeah.
this is all good things that he's blessing us with, but we aren't able to see that because we lost our intimacy with him. And
Yeah.
that's where I was. Like, I wasn't in a place where like again. Like I was still going to church. I felt like I was doing all of the right things. So in my head, I'm like, why am I feeling this way? I'm doing everything right. God's blessing me with all of these things. I have all of these tasks, and I'm very busy. Like I'm so blessed to be this busy. All of these things, but I'm like, I was missing the biggest point, the best part. Like she says, like I was doing good things, but I wasn't doing the best thing.
Yeah.
Um,
That brings up a good point for me too, is like consistency. We drive consistency in everything that we do inside the gym and stuff like that. But like when we talk about our values at the gym, like our vision and mission, like it's deeper than just like a, a sentence or two written on a board. Like our vision is to like create an environment that fosters the development of confident, knowledgeable, and healthy individuals
mhm.
through nutrition and safe and effective group training.
And when we say
Right.
healthy, we mean healthy physically,
Physically and
mentally, and
mentally.
spiritually.
And
Like
it's
healthy in
sometimes,
all
yeah,
of those
and
realms.
sometimes it's just like, oh, that's cool. It's a vision statement, like it's overlooked. And then we talk about the values and professionalisms, and like professionalism is one of our core values at our gym, and it resonates well. And this is before the books, before everything, right? It's like, no, this is what we want to do. And it's like James Clear in his book talked about it the other day, and it was like, professionals stick to the schedule, amateurs let life get in the way.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I have these core values at my business, and one of them being professionalism, but it's like, do I have core values myself that I like work through every day and make sure the decisions I'm making and the conversations I'm having like are in line with those values? So when he says professionalism, well, yeah, like I want to be seen as professional. Like, and it's like, I want to stick to the schedule. I want to stick to my systems. I want to stick to the things that I'm rooted in. And like faith needs to be number one, and it should be number one, and it will be number one. Like there's no like self talk around it. And when that came across you know, on the way to work the other day, I was like, I don't not everyone can just get the vision statement. Like you have to understand that like our vision statement runs deep, and our core values are bigger than just CrossFit Solidified.
Like words on
Words on a board, they mean everything to us, so that when we walk in and we have conversations with like staff or anyone, or like this, and it's like, yeah, but that's it. I'm like, no, but that's not it. Like, like, this is why. Like, let me explain why. I want you to know the why, um, as much as possible, so that there's no misunderstanding on like why we do certain things. So,
yeah.
and that goes into like the last book that I'm in right now, which is The Road Less Stupid, by Keith Cunningham. And I think it wraps up where I'm at right now, as far as like, it's a business book focused on making like decisions by avoiding costly mistakes. Basically arguing that like, if I just avoid the stupid ones, I don't need to make a lot of brilliant ones,
Hmm.
to be successful in the
Yeah.
business world. Um, which is like how I apply it. I'm taking this book and applying it to the way I talk to my kids and all this like that. Like I don't need to be seen as, I don't need to have the right answer and say the right thing every time my kid
Right.
goes through something. I just need to avoid reacting wrong,
Hmm.
control my emotions, control my words. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
no cursing, no.
That's what they remember. is their
Exactly.
emotions.
Exactly. It's like, can I just avoid not messing this up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'll be there. Let me be there. Like no, get away from like the victim mentality and all that stuff. It's just like, can I just react calmly and controlled, and then like be with them during this moment, whether
Yeah.
it's a praise moment or a moment of like a mistake.
Punishment.
Yeah, punishment, not punishment, but yeah. So it's just like that. So I take some of the books I read and I apply it to everyday life. So it does take me a while to go through the books. I don't go cover to cover. I've always failed in the past. Like I don't read books because like I just don't comprehend well. Like I
Like
can
the
read.
story you told
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, over the
Yeah.
time. And I told you the other day this, when I broke down the other day in the office, and I was like, I'm tired of telling myself that like I'm dumb. I don't read because of that,
Yeah.
whatever reason. I can't comprehend things. It's because when I read something, I apply it. I try to apply what I'm reading, because if I take the time for it to come across my desk, for it to come across something to where we're going to read it, I know there's value in it, and I know there's room for growth.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to see every opportunity in that book for growth. So I go apply it, and I allow that book to like stem out into
Yeah.
how it's supposed to be applied in business or in my personal life. So it takes me longer to read things because I'm applying it as I'm reading it. So
Yeah.
it'll take me a while to go from cover to cover.
Yeah.
You know? So anyways,
Yeah.
that's kind of how I do it. But the road less stupid is what I'm
Yeah.
working around. Yeah.
So we'll
Yep,
switch gears a little bit. My third book that I'm going to talk about, and then we'll wrap this up, is called The Hungry Brain. And I'm going to mess up his last name, but it's by Stephen Guynette. Sorry, Stephen. But he actually, so he has his bachelor's in biochemistry from the University of Virginia. He got his PhD in neuroscience from the University of Washington. And he spent so far a total of 12 years in the neuroscience research world. So he actually wrote this book. And this one's a little bit more science heavy because he does talk about, a lot of research, but it's super eye opening. And I don't want you to let that scare you off because it's very digestible, like even like for me. Um, he does get into the weeds of a lot of like scientific research and things like that. And it can kind of devil into a lot of honestly words that I was like, I don't really know what that means. But again, I looked them up and then I learned along the way. But it's also like it explains in a nutshell why nutrition feels so hard in a way that you're not going to feel like shamed. You're going to be like, oh, okay, that's why, because my brain, but he dives into specifically why ultra processed foods hijack our hunger signals and why advice like just eat less is terrible advice, according to him. I agree with that. And then he goes into the role that the brain plays in overeating and the value of the future self. That was something from this book in particular that I was like, wow, again, it brought that perspective or that reality to something that I can, read in this book to then tie into actual like life. Um, it's pretty long when he taught like the expert that I was going to read about the value of future self, but really, kind of like the meat and potatoes of it is like, let me see if I can kind of summarize this. So he starts off by saying if the brain was always rational in a way that it computes value, few people would carry credit card debt and no one would overeat. But we often make self-destructive choices, and this is particularly true when our decisions involve the future. As opposed to decisions that pit material objects against one another, like an apple versus an orange, we often make decisions that pit our present selves against our future selves. And the evidence shows that we often shortchange our future selves with disastrous consequences. So he says, this is an example of how our non-conscious intuitive brain competes with our conscious rational brain. So your intuitive brain has no concept of the future and no understanding of abstractions like health and finances. It wants to eat things that taste good right now. And that's why people give it, right? Your rational brain, on the other hand, understands the value of the future and other abstract notions like obesity and money. It wants to protect you from the excess of the intuitive brain, and it wants your future self to be lean, healthy, rich, all of the things that, we want for ourselves too. And he goes and kind of into like, again, this in-depth thing, but he says at the end, people who value their future selves highly will value long-term goals like leanness and health as well. Because again, they've learned how to not give in to that immediate, like, well, this tastes good, I'm going to eat it now, that instant reward. Because he talks about the delayed discounting, which is, I know most people have heard about the marshmallow experiment with children, that they offered children a choice between getting one marshmallow now or two marshmallows in 15 minutes. And most of them chose the one marshmallow now, because they want that instant reward. But I think this book would really help people understand that struggling with food doesn't mean you're weak. Like there's a ton of science that goes behind not only how our brains work, you touched a little bit on that reward system.
Yeah.
Our brains are wired that way, but also how, and it makes this book made me mad in many, many ways because he breaks down marketing. He breaks down the engineering of the food that gets, served to us or that gets produced for us to buy in grocery stores and how they're engineered. They're engineered for us to become addicted to it. So once you start to hear about all that back end stuff and learn about all of that, then you can kind of truly understand. It creates compassion and awareness. And once you understand how your brain works, you can then build systems that support better choices instead of relying on motivation or relying on like, oh, well, or, relying on the thing where it's like, well, it is what it is, or this is just how I am. Again, going back to soundtracks and stories that you tell yourselves, those are two of the most detrimental things you can say. It is what it is, or that's just how it's always been. Those two things, like, that's going to stop you in your tracks every time. So this one, again, you'll get the ones without all of my notes and my tabs in it. I have a new one for you guys to read there.
Yeah, that's funny because James Clear also says like discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. And like when you talked about like the reason why
Right.
people do it right now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it goes into our sales piece too. Like when we ask questions, it's like, cool, you want to lose this much weight, you want to do this, you want to do this by this time. Like I love that it's smart and attainable. Like, right. It's like, how much do you want this? Like on
Mhm.
a scale of 1 to 10. Some people will say 6. I'm like, I don't think you're ready for this then.
Right. Because, yeah,
And
it's going to be hard.
yeah, and someone's like, wait, what? I was like, yeah, because like this is going to be challenging. You're going to have to talk about nutrition. You're going to have to make some,
You're going to have to
make
address
changes,
some things that
some
are going to
things,
be hard.
because the 1 hour a day you put into this program, I don't care what program's out there, it's not going to get you your goal in the time frame you want. You know what I mean?
Right.
For the most part. So it's like having that challenge, like, hey, discipline is about choosing what you want most over what you want. And if this is what you want most, then I'm saying you're ready.
Yeah.
But if you're like at a 6 out of 10, like that goal that you just told me is like, it's not attainable.
Yeah.
And
Not,
I have to
not
tell
yet.
people that,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's good.
I am going to end with a famous Fern quote.
Oh,
At
fun.
at our very first mastermind when we went to the ant farm. It was so
Man,
That was so
if
weird.
you're ever in Denver
But it
and
was quite the experience, the whole thing, right? He talked about 10 lessons that he learned from his coach. And I wrote this one down because it was like an aha moment for me in many, many ways. But lesson number 5, and I'm gonna say a cuss word because this is quoted from him. So if you have little kids listening, tell them to plug their ears. Lesson number 5, it says, you're either stupid or don't give a shit. Being either one is a choice. Own your deficiencies. And for me, I was like, I need to read more books on things I'm not well versed in. If I'm going to talk about things or people are going to ask me questions about things, or if I'm going to say I'm a leader in CrossFit or I'm a leader in this, in our small business, then I need to continuously branch out and make sure that I know what I'm talking about. And I don't always know what I'm talking about, or not really like that. I don't always know the answers to everything that is in discussion. And if I don't know that answer, I will let you know. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go find that answer. And I know you've said that before too. And that was something that you at the very beginning when we were, I'm sure, in our marriage, that you had said. You were like, I don't know all the answers, but if I get a question and I don't know the answer to, I'll get back to you with the answer because I'm going to go find it. I'm going to go figure it out. And so when he said that that's one of the lessons, I'm like, yes, like you can either be stupid or you just don't give a shit, but either one is a choice. And you have to own that. So for me, I'm like, I'm going to continue to read. I'm going to continue to listen to podcasts. I'm going to continue to have mentors to teach me and to help me grow. But to kind of wrap it up, all of these books, the ones that we talked about here, and like I said, there's some other ones will be available for members to check out, like a library. There's you don't have to tell us that you're getting a book. Just walk up and grab the book. It's fine. No pressure, no deadlines. Just grab one, read at your own pace. Like we said, we don't expect you to read it front to back and you have to give it back to us in 2 weeks or, but we do want you to bring it back for someone else to then benefit from as well. So as soon as you're done, bring them back. And if a certain book hits you, tell us. Like I said, we want the conversations. We want the questions. We want to hear about what resonated with you the most. So I hope you guys can browse through these and take some home with you to read. But if you've been feeling stuck, burnt out, or just a little disconnected lately, this is your reminder. Sometimes the next breakthrough isn't a harder workout, it's a new perspective. So feed your body, but don't forget to feed your mind and your spirit too. Thanks for tuning into PRs and Purpose. If this episode resonated, share it with a friend, leave us a review, and just stop by the gym, grab one of these books, and have a conversation with us. But we'll see you next time.
See you.
Bye.